In Fallout 4, a synth refers to a synthetic human, a robot-human hybrid made by the Institute. Some of them are obvious, and others, well, not so much. This is a list of every synth in the game that is hidden when you first meet them. I guarantee you that you missed at least one. I've organized this to go from the most well-known to the least well-known, to try and surprise you at the end. If I'm right, and you didn't know about at least one of them, you are legally required to like this video. Let's get started. Paladin Dance is probably the most important secret synth, at least to the sole survivor. Dance is arguably the most powerful companion, combat-wise, well into the late game, and reminds me of my wife's boyfriend, so you could say he's a pretty cool guy. He's a full-on paladin with the Brotherhood of Steel, leading a scouting mission to the Commonwealth with his own squad when you meet him. However, no one, including Dance, has any idea that he is a synth. If you want to prove the truth, all you have to do is progress the story with the Brotherhood of Steel until you infiltrate the Institute. Once you do, you bug the Institute, giving the other main factions information on the secret base. Once you've done this, it will be revealed that Dance is actually a Gen 3 synth that must have escaped, had his mind wiped, then joined the Brotherhood of Steel on his own, having journeyed all the way to the Capital Wasteland in his attempt to escape the Institute and their coursers. This knowledge is far from impressive to the Brotherhood, and actually ends up frightening them, causing them to command you to hunt him down and kill him. You can, of course, choose to comply or disregard these orders, passing a speech check to save his life, though he will still be banished from ever returning to those he calls his family. Once free from the Brotherhood of Steel, he's free to follow you and do whatever you want him to as your lover or your companion. That's why he's one of the more important synths, but one of the more obvious ones in the end. Sammy is one of the worst synths we can find. I don't say worst because he's like morally bad or anything. I mean, he's just a tool for the Institute. He doesn't really have any say in the matter. I say he's a bad synth because he was bad at his job. See, Sammy was sent to infiltrate and presumably gain information on Good Neighbor. Good Neighbor is famously anti-Institute. But unlike Covenant, they don't fall into infighting and paranoia. Instead, they just promise to watch out for each other. Because of this attitude, the guards were very perceptive to the fact that the real Sammy was very different from the synth Sammy who replaced him. The guards noticed that the synth Sammy, who killed the original, had a completely different lifestyle. All of a sudden, he stopped drinking, stopped smoking, stopped cheating on his wife, and the guards knew that that couldn't be the real Sammy. They killed him, no questions asked. We find the guards in the game discussing how they knew and lamenting the fact that they have to break the news to Sammy's mother.
Hey, just your friendly neighborhood watch, shooting down Institute spies as they crop up.
What happened here?
Poor Sammy got snatched up by the Institute. Then those bastards send this low-rent double in his place. It's pathetic. They didn't make it 2 days before everyone realized something was wrong with him. Then we made the call, and here we are. Speaking of which, I gotta figure out where this body needs to get dumped. Why don't you get going?
Not a reason to be bothering me. I just had to shoot up a synth body snatcher over here.
He was a synth?
Yeah, unbelievable, huh? Sammy was fine a few days ago, and then bam! He's acting funny, gives up cigarettes, the booze, stops cheating on his wife. I mean, the man wasn't a saint, but he was who he was, you know. The Institute ain't got no right to replace him with a synth double. Look, we gotta clean up here. You keep close to you and yours, alright?
Still, this little part of the game really makes you question whether it's worse to have a significant other who cheats on you and spends all of your money on cigarettes, or to have them replaced by a cold, unfeeling robot. Still, these options beat out most of my exes, so it can't be that bad. Well, better luck next time, Sammy. Rip Bozo. Amelia Stockton is the synth we rescue from Covenant. If we are already with the Railroad, Old Man Stockton can tell us she is a synth who escaped the Institute, was mind-wiped, and fell into trouble at Covenant. If we are not with the Railroad, he refuses to give us a straight answer, and instead just kind of vaguely suggests that she's some kind of adopted daughter of his. Covenant is a town gripped with paranoia, having a frankly pretty normal reaction to the idea that members of their society can be replaced and then used to erode the social ties they have with one another. This paranoia has driven them to the not-so-normal reaction in how they try to find out if someone is a synth. Gen 3 synths are famously indistinguishable from regular humans, but even so, they believe that they have found a way to suss out if someone is a synth or not with a personality test. Longtime Fallout fans will recognize that this test is literally just the generalized occupational aptitude test used in Vault 101 to help people decide what job is right for them. The test would theoretically tell them who is a synth and who is not. But they are still in the testing phase, and they need to match their suspicions to reality. Just like the doctor who performed my liver transplant, their test scores are not that high. The final step of their testing, however, is the only surefire way to confirm someone's identity as a synth or not, which is, of course, to end their life and cut open their brain. It is in this moment, just before Amelia is about to be killed, that the sole survivor can step in and save her, or side with the citizens of Covenant and allow them to kill Amelia. At this point, Amelia has been integrated into the Commonwealth life and is no threat to Covenant or anyone else. So, the question is up to you. Art and art are both part of a random encounter. You may have stumbled into it, as it has a pretty high chance of spawning in. You come upon them where the real art has the synth art held at gunpoint. Or you can stumble onto them already fighting, or sometimes you can just find one or the other having finished the other one off. Each one claims that the other is a synth. In the way this random encounter is supposed to play out, human art has the synth art at gunpoint and says that the synth art is trying to replace him. Human art is right about all of this, of course. We don't know who Art is and what he does in the Commonwealth, but apparently he must be a pretty important guy, because the Institute has decided to replace him and put an agent in his place to do their bidding. Synth Art is not a case of an escaped synth. He is an active and participating member of the Institute, with his mission known only to himself. However, the sole survivor can choose to help either of them, either out of ignorance or because they also secretly work for the Institute, or just from having a high speech and getting lucky. Art is one of the synths who can't be very good at his job. He came in secretly with every advantage in the book, but still managed to end up in this situation with the real Art holding him over gunpoint. Really, whether you are pro-Institute or pro any other faction, the correct answer is to take out Synth Art, simply because he's bad at his job. Roger Warwick is probably the best example of Bethesda actually doing something interesting with their writing in Fallout 4. Roger's story is the closest Fallout 4 comes to Blade Runner, and the closest it comes to asking questions like, what does it mean to be human, and what it would be like to have someone close to you replaced by a synth. See, the Warwicks decided to set up a farm at the Nut Island wastewater treatment plant. Because of all the wastewater acting as fertilizer for their plants, the farm did very well, and they ended up hiring 2 other people to work the farm with them. After an attack by super mutants, at some point, the Institute replaced Roger with a synth, so they could use the fertile farm to test their new seeds out in the Commonwealth instead of in their controlled environment. This reminds me of when my goldfish died and my parents bought a new one and put it in the tank instead of just telling me that it had died. According to my parents, this makes the Institute the good guys in this situation. Plus, the synth Roger is a better father and a better farmer than their human counterpart ever was. But his employees and family realize the differences, and his peers suspect that he is a synth, and are considering hiring someone to kill him. The sole survivor can intervene, or leave it all alone and simply help the farm expand. But the Institute is planning to destroy all evidence of their involvement once they have the data they need, meaning the family is doomed without your intervention. Magnolia is a fun synth. Oops, sorry, spoiler I guess. But yeah, she's the singer at the third rail in Good Neighbor. And the reason I call her fun is not because she will literally interrupt her show just to have sex with you if you ask nicely. No, Magnolia is fun because from everything I can find out about her, she is unique among the synths who escaped the Institute. Contrary to what most people do, meaning they escape the Institute, go to the railroad, have their memories wiped, have new memories installed, and then start a new life somewhere, Magnolia seems to remember her past, meaning she never had her memories wiped. She also hasn't openly joined the railroad either. Let me explain. In one of her songs, the lyrics go,
Have you got history that needs erasing? A broken down dream you're tired of chasing. Ooh, I'm just the girl to make you forget.
Have you got a history that needs erasing? Did you come in just for the beer and cigarettes? A broken down dream you're tired of chasing? Oh, well, I'm just the girl to make you forget. She's singing from the perspective of Dr. Amari, who will erase Synth's memories so they can start a new life away from the Institute. Now, like I said, a lot of people think Magnolia had her memories erased, but I think she chose to keep her memories, and that she simply has a close relationship with Amari and the Railroad, since they probably still helped her to escape the Institute, even if they didn't erase her memories. I don't have any proof of this other than a song that she sings in-game, but because I said it, and it's in a video, it's now canon. Sturgis is most likely to be the first synth you meet in-game, not that you know it from first glance. He's probably the person I see mentioned the most often in online posts that go something like, "Did you know that this guy was a synth? I just found out after playing this for 10 years. Sturgis is, on the surface, one of the more straightforward characters in Fallout 4. In addition to being needlessly jacked beyond reason, he has a pretty easy story to follow, with him acting as a repair shop worker in Quincy and living a peaceful life in that city until the Minutemen were wiped out by gunners and the town was abandoned. During these events, he escapes with Preston Garvey, the last Minuteman alive, and eventually finds the sole survivor, and ends up as the repair worker in Sanctuary. As much as this story makes sense, I feel pretty strongly that there has to be more to his story that we just don't know. But the sad part is, he doesn't know either. Sturgis must have been like many other synths. He was a synth in the Institute, escaped, found the Railroad, had his memory wiped, and all that before setting foot in Quincy and beginning his life as a repair worker. Based on the other synths we know about, this was probably a pretty tough journey for him, and he likely only barely made it out alive. And the very first synth to ever be in Fallout is, of course, none other than Harkness from Fallout 3. He's the head of security for Rivet City. Surprisingly, Harkness used to be a courser of all things, one of the specially designed synths McDonough wants to become one day. We don't know exactly why he left, because he successfully worked with the Railroad and had his memory wiped, but because coursers are so special, so expensive, and intensive to make, the Institute sent the head of the Synth Retention Bureau to personally hunt him all the way to the Capital Wasteland, and they have even managed to find that he is somewhere in Rivet City. They asked the Lone Wanderer to help locate him and deactivate him. It is technically up to the player to decide what happens here. They can feed the Doctor false information, turn Harkness in, and even convince Harkness that he is a synth rather than a human. However, because the head of the Synth Retention Bureau, Dr. Zimmerman, is notably absent from Fallout 4, I think it's safe to say that he, or at least his body, is still in the Capital Wasteland, and Harkness is still hanging out in Rivet City as the head of security. It's crazy to me that after all these years, Bethesda managed to recycle one quest from Fallout 3 into the entire game of Fallout 4. Mayor McDonough is probably the most high-profile synth in Fallout 4. As the mayor of Diamond City, he's not only able to influence people's perception on the Commonwealth and on the Institute, but he is further able to keep a constant channel of relevant information flowing to the Institute by way of Kellogg, at least until you eat some Frosted Flakes. So, he acts not only as a puppet ruler, but also as a spy master. The mayor is famous in-game for always telling you how busy he is, but never actually doing anything. The mayor seems to have a warped perception of how the Institute views their synths, however, as he believes that if his assignment in Diamond City goes well, he'll be promoted into courser work. This is in spite of all the evidence that coursers are made with parts, not proven by deeds. McDonough simply isn't made from the same parts a courser is made from, so he will never be one. Furthermore, synths are viewed less as employees capable of learning and growing, and more as tools used for a specific job until they wear out. The Institute even have notes detailing that if the mayor were ever compromised, they would simply cut him loose and leave him to be on his own, even going as far as to estimate that he'd be dead in 2 weeks if this ever happened. You can expose him after you defeat the Institute, but you can mostly confirm this is the case by reaching max affinity with the companion Hancock. I won't spoil what happens if you do, so go find out. Captain Avery is one of the saddest cases of synth in the game. Major spoilers for the Far Harbor DLC if you haven't gotten there yet. But basically, the human Avery left her homestead in Far Harbor and returned once her mother had died. Over time, she became the respected leader of Far Harbor, the town, by stepping up to lead the town in the face of great hardships. She became friends with Dima, who is the leader of Acadia on the island they shared, while becoming more and more hostile towards the nucleus, which housed a violent chapter of the Children of Adam. At some point, however, Dima apparently learned nothing from all the synths he rescued over the years and pulled an institute, replacing her with a synth. He says he did this for good reasons, replacing her there as a way to keep the peace between the small town and the residents of the nucleus. His plan worked, however horrible it is morally, and the synth Avery we can meet in-game has managed to keep the peace despite growing tensions. If you confront the town with this, they turn on Avery, attack the nucleus, and destroy Acadia, and Dima along with it. If you feel a little more peace-oriented, you can tell only Avery about it instead, leaving many other options open, including ones for peace. Oh, and if you're just mad at Dima for this, just remember that if you confront him, he does say that he feels bad. So, it's all good. Well, there you have it. Those are all of the synths who are technically secret when you first meet them. I sometimes hear that Fallout 4 gets a bad rap, but I do think one thing they deserve credit for is how many people are surprising, at least the first time that you play it, to find out that they're synths. And most of this you have to sleuth out on your own using terminals in the Institute. Nobody wants to spend any time in the Institute, let's be honest. But, thanks for watching. And if I surprised you with one of these, you better leave a comment. Or if you knew all of them, go ahead and leave a comment anyway. I like hearing from you guys. If you made it to this point in the video, I would appreciate it if you subscribed. Fallout is probably the most influential brand in the world to me, and I love talking about it. So, drop a comment, maybe a like, and tell me what you'd like me to make a video about. See you around.